Hi, I'm Talon from Rocky Mountain School of Expeditionary Learning, Rumsel, and this is
Abdul Haak.
nice to meet you. So we're interviewing you about regarding the Muslim American experience and how they were treated after the event of 9/11. So when were you born and where?
I'm actually born in Denver, Colorado, 1979, native.
Nice. I was born in Colorado too. Have you worked here, or how long have you worked here, and where else have you been working?
Let's see, I've worked here for 2 years now. I'm the chief administrator for Al-Hassan Academy Muslim High School. Previously, I've been working, doing various jobs, management jobs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I've been active within this community for almost a decade now.
Long time. How about your family? How's your family life like?
My family life is pretty good. I'm married. I have 3 kids. The youngest is a newborn, and
Congratulations.
thank you. The oldest is 10 years old now. My wife is a teacher. She teaches elementary school. She teaches at Crescent View Academy,
Oh, okay.
a Hope Learning Center with the Muslims. So we try to stay active within our community.
Yeah. So all of your family, would you say that Islam has a certain culture around it? Do you think you act differently, or it's just the exact same as a typical American family?
I'd say Islam is really kind of what my family's about. It's our practice. It defines who we are. At the same time, we're also typical Americans.
Yeah.
My wife likes to watch Grey's Anatomy or
Yeah.
something like that. Occasionally I'll watch Star Trek Voyager or something goofy on
That
Netflix.
show.
Great show. Great show. She's the best starship captain. Islam still defines who we are and what we do, but we're still, Americans, and we still, this is our culture.
Yeah.
But Islam is what defines us as people and religiously.
How would you say that Islam defines you and your family? Like, what are some examples that your family?
Okay. Like for example, when we bought our house, we didn't take a mortgage. Islamically, dealing in interest is forbidden.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's something that the end result, as Muhammad said, is loss for dealing in interest. And you kind of see the results of so many bank deals with interest with the economic collapse of 2008.
Yeah.
So we stay away from it. So Islam is referred to in Arabic as a deen. It's translated as religion, but a better way to look at it is a way of life. So how we interact with each other, with other people, with our families, with animals, with nature, that's all contained within Islam. So we try to uphold that as best as we can, and but at the same time, we're still Americans.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that, or have you ever been treated differently as yourself or your family or anyone in your community than a typical American family or someone who wasn't Muslim?
Yeah, I've been in jobs where my boss told me that because I live in America, I have to celebrate Thanksgiving or I have to celebrate Christmas, which I don't.
Right.
I've been discriminated against getting jobs because of my practice of Islam. There was a job where some of the job required that people handle alcohol. And when I was hired, I made clear that I don't handle alcohol religiously. And I was told that the company would be willing to make accommodations.
Right.
When I arrived there and I remained firm about I'm not handling alcohol, I was told I had to be let go. My wife, people will make comments to her, say things to her if she covers her hair and wears Islamic clothes, and she will be discriminated against, or things will be said to her to try and provoke a response. So yeah, there is discrimination for being a Muslim living in America.
So, regarding the event of 9/11 in 2001, do you remember that day, and
Yeah.
how did that affect you?
I remember the day. I was in college as a political science major. So I remember the events unfolding, and I remember, just thinking, what happened. Always wanted to take a practical approach.
Yeah.
What are the exact events? What happened and who did it? What devastation was caused by it? It was a tragic event that kind of shaped a reality of America for the past, decade.
Yeah.
As far as how I feel that things have changed, I think the initial response to that event was really patriotic, but also really inflammatory towards Muslims in general. A lot of people forget there were a lot of Muslims working in the Twin Towers at the time who were killed.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people kind of justify the response like we have to attack Muslims, we have to defame Muslims. A lot of Muslims at that time stopped practicing Islam because they were afraid people would target them.
Yeah.
And that was unfortunate. I feel that the situation has cooled some, but it still carries on. I had a conversation with my dad when I was describing the school that we're working on and trying to raise funds for the school, and he made a good point. He mentioned, that there's a whole generation that carried on resentment for the Japanese after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
For decades, until the 80s, and even some of them still carry resentment until now. And it's going to take a lot of time for any anti-Islamic feelings to go away.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of a situation. Even though not every Muslim had anything to do with 9/11, and just as not every Japanese person had anything to do with Pearl Harbor, but that's still something we carry because as human beings we tend to sort people into boxes.
Yeah. I appreciate that view, and especially connecting it to the Japanese internment, because that's what we're looking at. So, do you feel that the Patriot Act has taken away any of your personal civil liberties?
It's an interesting question. I'll put it like this. I think, me personally, is that the civil liberties that we have have always been kind of as needed in the view of the government. There's a lot of people who lost civil liberties before 9/11. It was just never taken to a point where it's written down on paper.
Yeah.
Where if such and such individual is making statements or comments that are anti-American and has an effect on people, then historically the government would take care of them one way or another. With the Patriot Act, now it's on paper, now it's official. But this isn't the first time in our history.
Yeah.
Under the administration of our second president, there was the Alien and Sedition Act, where civil liberties were stripped of people. And the thing that concerns me most with the Patriot Act is where, like, under the second president, you had a movement of people who said, we're going to repeal this act. We're going to make sure that our civil liberties are protected. What you see with the Patriot Act is kind of a response of nonchalance, where it's okay, the government's doing what's best for us because they're protecting us. And that's what concerns me most about the Patriot Act, is that the American people don't seem either willing or savvy enough to say, this is a danger to us. Yeah. This affects all of us as Americans. And I think that's the most unfortunate aspect of the Patriot Act.
Yeah, I agree with you big time, especially people are too often seeing the stereotype and thinking that there's a good trade-off between liberty and security, and there's not. It's not happening. But is there anyone in your community that you know that has been specifically targeted by that? Like anyone?
Yeah, I have a friend who, somebody just made a phone call and he had the FBI detain him
Wow.
There was no reason for detaining him. He had done nothing. But because somebody, just simply made a call accusing him of something that he had there was no evidence, there was nothing for it, he was actually jailed for a time. It's something where we're aware that sometimes we have people come in here and try and get people to say or do something, almost like entrapment, where
Yeah.
we feel that there'll be someone encouraging people to go fight and go do things that they don't really fit with the community. They're not members of the community, but they come in and try and see where people are.
Yeah.
So we do see it, and it's something to be aware of, that there's people looking to get us, and some of these people might feel that they're doing a service to their country, and that's the unfortunate part of it.
Yeah, most definitely. How do you view yourself and your family as Muslim Americans?
See, it's kind of a tricky question here. We view ourselves as Muslims first,
Yeah.
We'll do what our religion commands us to do. With American, we view ourselves kind of as better citizens now, in a way. As Muslims, we're encouraged to obey laws and respect the community, try and make the environment that we live in better.
Yeah.
So that's what we try and do. We're always trying to enjoin good and forbid evil. That's what we're told to do in Islam. So we try to make sure that we have a safe environment where people have mutual respect and mutual care. So we're better for it. And the thing is that regardless of what other people say, we're still part of the American culture. We're part of the American fabric. It's my personal opinion that Islam has a lot to offer America.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't look at it in that way, unfortunately, but there's a lot of good within Islam that can benefit America.
Yeah.
More than there's something that can harm America.
I agree. Do you think that the population in general and the U.S. government views you and just the Muslim population differently than you do? Or is it specific people that are being ignorant or rude?
I think it's kind of a dangerous way to think when we say, a U.S. government or a corporation or an institution or even a school. Because we always got to remember that these groups are made up of people. So at the heart of it, it's always going to be individuals here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to be a certain person or somebody's view that somebody has that's going to influence it. When we fall into kind of the trap of saying, well, this American government says this, then we kind of fall in where either we're in it or we're out of it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, I'm an individual, and these people are individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we do that, we fall into the trap of saying, well, this is what my government is doing is right. Instead of saying, well, this is his viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Is it influencing us in a better way, or is it influencing us towards something that's not going to benefit us? And that's kind of the trap that we have now with the view of Muslims, where certain people will have a view that Islam is bad in general, and they'll perpetuate that view so that everybody else is saying, well, these Muslims are bad.
Right.
Whereas if we say, okay, this guy says Muslims are bad, this Muslim is bad, this Muslim is bad, but this Muslim is doing really good.
Mm-hmm.
This Muslim is doing okay. That's the hope that I have, is that instead of being viewed as a big group, that we're taking, okay, what are we doing as individuals, and then what are these individuals doing collectively?
Yeah.
Do these individuals who are trying to make the society better, do they do something to benefit society? And that's where I hope it goes. But that's human nature,
Yeah.
I guess 20 or 30 years ago we were talking about how are African Americans benefiting, or how are Latinos, but
Yeah.
over time that's changed to now this individual, that individual. And Muslims and Islam are no different.
So do you think eventually that it will get better and it will pass, just like, Japanese people aren't as discriminated against, and African Americans aren't discriminated against?
Right, I hope it does.
Yeah.
That's my sincere hope. Whether or not that happens is up to, it's the will of God. But then, what are the Muslims doing? Number one, how are the Muslims conveying the message of Islam, and how are they establishing good in America? Is number one. That'll have the biggest impact. And then two, how are non-Muslim people treating people with dignity and respect? Are non-Muslim people lumping us into a group, or are we being treated as individuals? If those things happen, then it'll change. And if we have people who aren't as Muslims conveying Islam and saying this is what we do, this is how we live, then there'll always be kind of an unknown where we'll be a separate element, and that's where it's dangerous.
I think once people start, I agree with you, once people stop looking at everyone as wholes, and that's the stereotyping is what purposely perpetuates them, and people think of those and treat people according to their stereotypes. So there has to be growth, but I think that's all the questions. But if you have anything else to say or any questions for us?
No, I'm pretty good. Just in general, I guess something general to say. We have a lot of good going on in America. I've always tell groups that come and speak with me, if somebody asked a question about jihad, say in Egypt, if I answered that question, I'd be arrested immediately. And in America, we have our freedom of religion. Where if somebody asks a question, I can answer it honestly, and it's respected. A lot of kind of the terrorist movements are because people don't have knowledge of their religion, because it's been suppressed by oppressive governments. So when there's knowledge, then people act accordingly. So for whoever's listening, our civil liberties are kind of what keeps America America. It's something to protect, not just for us, but for everybody. So that's all I have.
Well, thank you so much for letting us interview you. I think you had some really good views and opinions and really good information for people.